There's never really an off-season in the NFL, is there? Even when the calendar slows down and training camps haven't quite kicked off yet. Teams like the San Francisco 49ers are still working, still evaluating, still looking for ways to gain an edge. And that's why today we've got to talk about a couple of really interesting developments. One involving a veteran pass rusher who just hit the open market and might be a perfect fit for the Niners scheme, and the other involving a former first-round cornerback who's trying to rewrite his story after falling out of the league. These are the types of moves that fly under the radar in June and July, but can end up paying massive dividends when the games start to matter in the fall. Let's start with the name that raised a few eyebrows this past week, Ogbonia Okoronkwo. Now, if you're a hardcore football head, you probably remember him from his college days at Oklahoma, where he was a fifth-round pick in the 2019 NFL Draft by the Los Angeles Rams. Not exactly the most hyped edge rusher coming out of college, but he's quietly carved out a solid career as a rotational defender, with some real juice off the edge. The kind of player who doesn't always make the headlines but can absolutely make a difference when used correctly. And with the 49ers' track record of developing and maximizing defensive line talent, especially under the guidance of defensive line coach Chris Kukurek, this might be the exact type of under-the-radar signing that pays off in a big way. Let's go back and look at the numbers. Okoronkwo started out slowly with the Rams, putting up 1.5 sacks his rookie year, then another sack in year 2. Nothing crazy, but he showed flashes in 2021. His production ticked up slightly again with 2 sacks and 6 quarterback hits. And then he signed with the Houston Texans in 2022. And that's when things really started to come together. That season, playing under a different system, but with more opportunities, he played all 17 games, posted 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and 11 quarterback hits. That was essentially his breakout year, a moment where people around the league started to notice that maybe this guy was more than just a rotational body. Then came the move to Cleveland, where he spent the last 2 seasons under Jim Schwartz. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Schwartz runs a wide 9 defensive alignment, which is also what the 49ers have used with great success for years. So when you talk about scheme fit, this isn't just a hunch. There's real familiarity here. Okoronkwo has played in this kind of system. He understands the responsibilities, the angles, the timing, and though his numbers dipped slightly, 4.5 sacks in 2022, then 3 sacks last season, his tape still shows explosiveness and refined pass rush skills. We're talking about a player who knows how to bend the edge, collapse the pocket, and apply pressure without necessarily needing to be a full-time starter. What makes Okoronkwo even more intriguing is what he did back in 2022 with the Texans. That year, he ranked 15th among all edge defenders with at least 100 pass rush snaps in terms of pass rush grade. He also finished 16th in pass rush win rate, clocking in at 16.5%. Those are not fluke numbers. Those are indicators of a player who consistently gets into the backfield and makes life difficult for quarterbacks. That's what the 49ers are always looking for. Disruption now, you might be thinking, well, the Niners already addressed the defensive line in the draft, right? And you're not wrong. They did. They took Mike Hall Jr. early on, made some trades, and brought in several young talents like C.J. West and Alfred Collins to shore up the interior. They also traded for Bryce Huff, a guy who had double-digit sacks 2 seasons ago under Robert Saleh with the Jets and has the kind of first-step explosiveness that you can't coach. So yeah, the defensive line has been addressed. But if you've followed the 49ers for any length of time, you know that when it comes to the trenches, they never settle. You can never have too many weapons up front. It's one of the most physically demanding positions in football. And depth, there can be the difference between dominating for 4 quarters or fading late in games. That's where Okoronkwo comes in. He wouldn't be brought in to carry the load. He'd be another piece of the puzzle, a veteran who can come in, give you meaningful snaps, bring energy off the edge, and rotate in without the defense missing a beat. That kind of value is critical, especially late in the year when injuries start piling up. The current depth chart behind Nick Bosa and Bryce Huff includes guys like Yetur Gross-Matos, Sam Okwuegbunam, and Robert Beal Jr. Gross-Matos is a former high pick who never quite lived up to the hype in Carolina, but has some tools to work with. Okwuegbunam surprised some folks last season with his high motor and versatility, but he's still relatively unproven. And Beal, a 5th-round pick out of Georgia last year, hasn't shown enough as a pass rusher to cement a role. He's hanging on the roster bubble. And if he doesn't take a big leap, his spot might not be secure for long. That's the reality of life in the NFL. Production matters. So bringing in someone like Okoronkwo, who's been productive and fits the scheme, just makes sense. He's not going to command a huge contract. He knows how to rush the passer. He's played in the wide nine. And with a coach like Chris Kakurek, who has a long history of getting the most out of defensive linemen, there's a real chance Okoronkwo could recapture some of that 2020 form and become a key rotational piece for this defense. Now, switching gears to the secondary, let's talk about Damon Arnette, a name that might raise some eyebrows for different reasons. The former first-round pick out of Ohio State had a rough start to his NFL career. After being drafted 19th overall by the Las Vegas Raiders in 2020, he played just 13 games over 2 seasons before a series of off-the-field issues led to him falling out of the league altogether. Substance abuse problems, multiple legal run-ins. It was a mess. The kind of downfall you never want to see from a young player with talent. But here's the twist. After spending some time out of the NFL, Arnette worked his way back. He played in the UFL this past season with the Houston Roughnecks and apparently showed enough growth, maturity, and production to earn another shot. He recorded 18 tackles, 5 pass breakups, 1 sack, and even took an interception back for a touchdown that caught the attention of a few teams, including, reportedly, the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, the Niners made a call. They checked in before he ended up signing a 1-year deal with the Houston Texans on June 18th. That says something. It tells us that San Francisco is keeping a close eye on their cornerback room and sees some potential vulnerability in terms of depth. The starting trio, Diamador Lenoir, Renardo Green, and rookie Upton Stout, has serious potential. Lenoir's been a rock, allowing just 1 touchdown in coverage over the last 3 years. Green was outstanding in limited action last season, and Stout, for those who don't know, absolutely blew up the combine. He ran a blazing 40, led all defensive backs in the gauntlet drill, and showed off elite strength on the bench press. He's sticky in coverage, plays with swagger, and isn't afraid to hit. But the issue is what happens if one of those guys gets hurt. Suddenly, you're looking at Trey Brown, a former Seahawk who's been mostly unproven, having to step in. Beyond that, the depth chart starts to get shaky. They've got guys like Maris Siegel who can play nickel and safety, but he's not a true outside corner. So it makes sense that the Niners were exploring options. And say what you will about Arnette's past, the fact that both San Francisco and Houston made calls tells you that teams still believe the talent is there. And if the off-field concerns are truly behind him, maybe he becomes one of those rare comeback stories that actually pans out. Also, don't forget the connection here. DeMeco Ryans, now the head coach in Houston, came up as a defensive coach in San Francisco. He knows what kind of traits the Niners look for in defensive backs. He knows how the scheme works. So when Ryans makes a move, it often mirrors the logic we see from the Niners front office. If he believes Arnette can fit into that system, it's reasonable to think San Francisco thought the same. At the end of the day, these are the kind of moves that championship-caliber teams make. Not always flashy, not always headline-grabbing, but rooted in smart evaluation, scheme fit, and upside. You don't win in January by only making moves in March. The great teams keep working, keep building, keep finding ways to get better around the edges. And with Okoronkwo now available and Arnette already on the radar, the 49ers are once again showing they're not content to stand still. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The San Francisco 49ers, one of the NFL's most stable and successful franchises in recent years, may be heading into troubled waters if recent whispers prove to hold any truth. A storm of speculation erupted this week following reports that star defensive end Nick BOSA has privately expressed his refusal to continue playing alongside offensive powerhouse Christian McCaffrey. According to sources close to this situation, BOSA allegedly told members of the 49ers front office that he would not suit up next season if McCaffrey remains on the roster. While no official statement has been released by BOSA, the mere rumor of such a dramatic rift between two of the team's biggest names has sent shockwaves through the organization and its fan base. Though the root of the tension remains unclear, some insiders suggest there have been lingering locker room issues between the two players. Whether these stem from personal disagreements, conflicting leadership styles, or other behind-the-scenes dynamics, the possibility of a fractured team chemistry now looms large over San Francisco's Super Bowl ambitions. BOSA, the 2022 Defensive Player of the Year and a cornerstone of the 49ers elite defense, rarely makes waves off the field, which makes these reports all the more surprising. McCaffrey, acquired in a high-profile trade from the Panthers in 2022, has been nothing short of spectacular since arriving, revitalizing the team's run game and emerging as a vocal leader on offense. If the rumor holds weight, the 49ers front office faces an unenviable choice: risk alienating one of their defensive stalwarts, or part ways with a superstar running back at the peak of his powers. For now, the team remains tight-lipped, and fans are left speculating about what might be happening behind closed doors in Santa Clara. Could this be the beginning of a major shakeup in the Bay Area? Only time will tell, but where there's smoke, there's often fire, and this particular blaze could have championship implications. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.